Just give everybody a chance to get back to the seats. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Like that. Vic, can we have apologies for absences, please?
Thank you, Chairman. We have apologies from Councillors Palmer, Watkins and Malcolm Victory.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you. Have we Fran missing as well? We know that.
It doesn't look like Fran's here, but we didn't receive apologies before the meeting, so we can record that.
Thank you, everybody. Do we have any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests or any other disclosable interests for the one item on the agenda this evening? Can't see a show of hands on those, thank you. Of course, it's an extraordinary council. There are no chairman's announcements. We don't have any public questions or participation. So I can move us straight to agenda item 5. So I'd like to invite Councillor John Gallagher to remove the recommendations in the report on the local government reorganisation options appraisal. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to first for us to go through some of the issues that are in front of us. We've spent quite a lot of time and a lot of effort. There've been a lot of briefings up to now on doing the options. So what we're doing, we're considering the local government reorganisation options appraisal tonight and to agree a preferred way forward for the new unitary, what structure we'd like to support. Now, back in December last year, we had a white paper come out early December last year, which really kicked off the process of local government reorganisation and devolution and all that's followed on from that. And the essence of that white paper was to achieve economic growth, and to do this by devolving power to local decision makers, so that those of us who live in an area are best placed to make decisions in our own interests rather than central government. We understand the needs of our communities better, housing, health, education, etc. And we understand our economy. We can develop our economy better than a central government development. Since the white paper was published, we've examined and discussed widely what to do and how to embrace the shape of this change in local government that's coming upon us. 5 of the 6 Worcestershire District Councils have engaged mutual ventures to assess the options for local government in Worcestershire. And this MB report identified basically 2 options, an option A, which was a single unitary, and an option B, which is the 2 unitary option. And that's what we have really in front of us tonight. And we've all been involved in that. One of the interesting things from that report, and there's quite a few of them in actual fact, is they've actually scored the performance of the different options against the criteria that government will be judging it by. And in the option A, they had a high probability criteria or elements that had a high probability of meeting the criteria, and there were 12 of these and 6 elements that met the medium probability. And interestingly, in the option B2, which is was the subcategory of the second option, which is a shared service one, exactly the same high probability to meet the criteria of 12 elements and 6 elements for medium probability. So on that basis, their performance score, they've given basically those 2 options more or less an equal chance of meeting the probability of the government's 6 criteria. There are pros and cons, however, with each option. Currently, Wychavon and Worcester are recommending a 2 unitary South Worcestershire and North Worcestershire unitary. And the South Worcestershire councils are all expressing a united voice for option B. So we put a preference forward earlier in the year for a 2 unitary option. And we have now the Wychavon, Worcester and ourselves having expressed that preference. I think tonight, I think Worcester have their EGM and they will be probably passing the 2 Worcestershire option, and tomorrow Wychavon, the recommendation at Wychavon will be for two options for unitaries in Worcestershire. So furthermore, I would say that the public consultation has also shown a very strong support for the two unitary option. Businesses, parish councils and town councils and residents who've all been consulted all prefer the two unitary option. So let us examine this against the government's 6 criteria. First of all, criterion 1, to establish a single tier. Option B offers greater democratic representation. It enables greater economic alignment of priorities to our local economy, and it is better for housing supply as the SWTP can be inherited and passed on as it is into the new unitary structure, rather than have to restart everything all over again with a single unitary. So there's benefits there. Criterion 2 is about the right size to achieve efficiencies. It has been said that the larger single unitary has economy of scale benefit and can withstand financial shocks better. Worcester County Council is essentially bust and are seeking a financial bailout. So I think a County Mark II solution is no guarantee of stability. In fact, there is evidence that there are no economies of scale in delivering social care, and there is evidence of diseconomies for larger systems. This evidence also shows that a population size of 250 to 350,000 achieves the lowest cost. Therefore, that size is more efficient and better at delivering adult social care and children's services. Criterion 3, the prioritisation of high quality, sustainable public services. Disaggregation of services is a risk, and I think we've all identified that and understand that. This can be dealt with by both options, however. Option A, there is no disaggregation. It would just go straight across into the single unitary. Disaggregation is avoided in option B by sharing the services north and south into those two unitaries. The ability for residents to influence and understand decisions transparently is better served by option B, and alignment of council governance with town councils and parish councils, however, needs to be established. There's an element of this that will inevitably come forward, and we'll have to work out how we align our governance systems with the needs and requirements in towns and parish councils. Criterion 4, how councils have sought to work together and be informed by local views. Now, all district councils have cooperated in the public engagement Shape Worcestershire. This showed a strong preference for two unitary solution. Local identity is better served by two, as is local representation. It is more supportive of our rural environments. It's more responsive for governance with councillors who live in the area. So criterion 4, the two unitary solution ticks the boxes. Criterion 5 is the ability to unlock devolution. This is about the ability to deliver regional priorities, creating a foundation for economic growth, which is the essence of the white paper. It's the thing that kicked this all off. There are demographic differences between the north and the south, so the north being more urban looking towards Birmingham and the south being a different mix, more rural. And consequently, this will reflect in different housing needs, transport, infrastructure, skills requirements, etc. Each unitary member of the strategic authority going into the devolution phase needs to be the right size so that the large doesn't dominate the small. Candidate constituent members for our strategic authority are currently Herefordshire, North Gloucestershire and South Warwickshire. So sizes of these unitaries are compatible or would be compatible with a North-South Worcestershire split. Criterion 6, enabling stronger community engagement. So the people have spoken, a two unitary is preferred, and it provides better prospects for public sector reform and is better and more targeted for care arrangements. The vision here is that we have a local government reorganisation and devolution that offer the prospect of growing our economy, that permits us to develop our infrastructure relevant to our demographics, better democratic representation. We don't lose the connectedness that district councils currently have. We can tackle inequality specific to our area better, and we develop a strategic authority that can be a new centre of growth, sandwiched between the Bristol and Birmingham unitaries or big structured business areas north and south of ourselves. So I propose the recommendations 2.12 as our preferred way option. So all the recommendations, along with I think one of them is to note, but 2.12 is for the 2 unitary option and the subsequent other options behind that.
Thank you, John. So just confirm, John, you're moving those on block.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Do I get a seconder for this? Thank you, Jeremy.
Just, I mean, one of the things that's really come through in the public engagement has been the desire for trying to keep council and governance local. I think if a lot of our residents had the choice, they would prefer to retain the district, but I think they would prefer to have a South Worcestershire unitary as opposed to a single Worcestershire unitary, because the south is so distinct from the north. So I'm happy to support the proposal of 2.12 that we go forward and explore how we can deliver the government outcomes through 2 unitary councils within Worcestershire.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'd like to invite members to debate. So everyone to show hands. Anyone to talk? Natalie?
Yeah, thank you. What's clear to me is that the further we've gone down this process, the more shambolic it's become. Whilst I appreciate the hard work of officers of this council, government have been a complete shower. Moving the goalpost on population figures, recent revelations about unchecked costings, meaning that there's a high likelihood that rather than saving money, unitary councils will be spending money. And yesterday, Labour council leaders being called into a meeting to be informed about the potential splitting of existing district councils. What a confusing mess and diabolical centralised power grab, seemingly at any cost. Of course, what the government should do is pull the plug on this poorly thought out plan, so that councils like ours can get on with our day-to-day business rather than being consumed by this damaging daily distraction, but they're not going to risk further ridicule by making yet another U-turn. Does anyone in government know what they're doing? Of course they do. This tokenistic engagement exercise is just that. It's a stitch-up. Jim McMahon and Angela Rayner already know what they want to do in Worcestershire. What we decide on tonight will more than likely have no bearing on it. But I have so little trust and respect for this government that I have to do what I can to protect the interests of residents. And the only way that I can think of doing that at the moment is to make sure that political decision-making process is as close to them as it possibly can be. So this evening, I shall be supporting a 2 unitary solution.
Thank you, Natalie. Paul?
Yes, echo quite a lot of that. Also, it is amazing that a plan has come forward, unfortunately, with a layer above all of this without really us knowing what that was going to do, which is, again, just not acceptable, really. The mayoral aspect to this is almost completely unknown and could change dramatically. There is, of course, as well, Herefordshire. I mean, you know, this population thing obviously went straight out the window when Herefordshire was told that with 200,000 people, they could stay as a unitary as they are. And, you know, it doesn't make any kind of sense to mess with things without having a plan first that made sense. I am very relieved that with the South Worcestershire option, we would be able to keep the SWDPR, because that is crucial, considering the government's other shambolic idea is that they can build houses wherever, regardless of what, you know, the future heritage of this country, which will be the only thing that people will ever come and see, could be completely destroyed otherwise. And we really do need some protection. So we will be supporting the north-south option, obviously. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Yes. Mark?
Yeah, so I will be supporting this motion. I echo what a lot of my colleagues have just said. You know, to me, this isn't really about devolution, more democratic accountability. In fact, it takes accountability, transparency, and responsibility at a kind of higher level, less of a local level. So I still really have questions about local government reorganisation, and particularly the relationship between the new authorities and parish and town councils. You know, the questions whether actually decision making is going to be devolved to some of those parish and town councils, for example. But I support a South Worcestershire approach based on what other colleagues have said around local identity, effective democratic representation, community engagement. As I understand it, you know, a new one Worcestershire, there would be 100 councillors representing the whole of Worcestershire. So moving from one councillor representing about 3,500, 4,000 people to one councillor representing 6,000-7,000 people. So more local devolution, the South Worcestershire approach and the two unitary authority is something I would support. And it's obviously become clear through the stakeholder engagement and community engagement process that certainly for the residents of Malvern, that is the preference they prefer.
Thank you, Mark. Peter?
Is that working? Yes, it is. Thank you, Chair. I'm grateful to the previous speakers for laying out quite how strange and perverted this process is in most senses. I'd like to put it very clearly on record for the residents who are listening that nothing that we decide tonight will help the county council's debt situation. It won't reduce their council taxes by a penny, and it won't for a moment prevent the new regional people having all the power, because that's what the government's white paper was very clear about. The regional mayors are going to be the people who have the money and the power. And while it's lovely to debate whether it's one unitary or two, frankly, it's not very relevant, because the debt will be transferred down and there will be a bun fight over that, I can guarantee. And our powers, whichever way we go, will be badly reduced. And we need to be absolutely honest with our residents about that. And the paper that we've had from our consultants is also very clear. The payback periods on this, even to break even, you know, are many years. And a 2 option one is the worst of worlds. That will take, depending on whose numbers you believe, the counties or our consultants, somewhere between 6 or 8 years. It's just a daft plan. So let's be absolutely crystal clear to our residents about that. You know, this is not going to save anybody any money, but it may be helpful to the government to pass off, you know, other budgets onto the new unitaries. That's about the only thing you can say about this.
Thank you, Peter. Tom?
Chairman, thank you. This afternoon, I was listening for a short while to the BBC Parliamentary TV debate on the second motion. I can't remember what it's called when they come back for the second time on this very subject. Second reading, that's it. And it was interesting listening to MPs of all persuasions casting some serious questions about what this is actually ever going to achieve in terms of any kind of positive outcome. One of the things that's interesting is that the government hasn't identified as yet the proposed commensurate savings that this will all achieve. There's no figure in the exchequer for what this might be delivering in terms of efficiency. So it's all a little bit smoke and mirrors, and one that don't really know what this is going to achieve. But what we do know, and I totally support with head and heart the South Worcestershire option, we do know that it's going to create a hiatus for a year or two where it's going to be difficult to focus on the general business. And so we will be inevitably deflected to an extent. And certainly if we're going down the South Worcestershire model, the truth is that adult services, children's services are the big ones. And the challenge will be for the new South Worcestershire Authority to get up and running and delivering within that 12-month period. And we all know 12 months in local government goes very, very quickly. And that story would begin with the appointment of a chief executive officer by those who are elected. And from then on, the heads of directorates would also be appointed by councillors, senior councillors, and from there you'd then get cascading down through the organisation the new model for delivery. And if Herefordshire, Paul made the point about Herefordshire being a sparsely populated county with only 200 and something 200,000 something residents, if they can achieve reasonable, certainly better than Worcestershire, financial outcomes, then there is hope that a South Worcestershire, being approximately 300,000-ish, thereabouts, a bit more than that, could equally achieve, you know, something more substantial and sustainable in terms of financial model for those two big areas. The issue about the 2B option, I'm pleased we're not being seduced into that tonight. It would not be for this authority or this consultation process to identify that as a preferred model. That would be something the new 2 component councils in Worcestershire would do, possibly, in the same way as we have shared services in some areas, in reg services, for instance. But those of us who have thought about shared services recognise the democratic deficit they often create, and that would need to be carefully thought through rather than being seduced by some form of efficiency saving. As Peter's made the point, any saving that's likely to accrue will be some years down the road. And I totally believe a South Worcestershire approach is the right thing to do. If I were thinking of it purely selfishly, as a resident of Worcestershire, South Worcestershire, the truth is, and the modelling shows this, is that the northern districts have higher indices of deprivation, and by definition that creates cost pressures in things like adult services and children's services higher than would be commensurate to a South Worcestershire model. And also in South Worcestershire, by chance, the district council tax contribution is less than that in Redditch and Bromsgrove and Wyre Forest. So to cut to the end of the story, we would be paying more, substantially more, step change more in council tax for fewer services, because the county would be obliged to deliver on those areas of 85% of their budget in adult services and children's services that it has to by statute, leaving very little wiggle room for anything other than those services. And the things in South Worcestershire that we deliver currently, which are discretionary, could end up losing in that scenario. So I don't want to be too much of a shroud waver here, but certainly if I was a resident in South Worcestershire looking at this as an option, I'd be saying I get a better bang for my buck in South Worcestershire, my council tax, than I would in a single county. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Dean.
First of all, I can't think of a word I've heard tonight which I don't agree with. It did strike me just that this is very much in the nature of a revolution, and revolutions destroy, they don't create. Since I've been on this council, it actually has evolved. An evolution generally comes out with a better system, and it's evolved to work cooperatively, certainly in South Worcestershire. So we work quite closely with Wychavon. We work relatively closely with Worcester. And there's got to be a reason for that. It obviously is a unit which fits properly to control this area as such. And other things, yes, we have devolved off to county, and that was the objective to B, I think, if I've got the numbering right. That, I believe, is almost inevitable if we go this route. It's already been demanded by government of any option, I think. So I find no difficulty in supporting this motion at all. I think it is the best. It's the nearest to retaining the best of what we've got already.
Thank you, Dean. Do you have any other comments, thoughts, opinions? David? Yes.
Yes, I've got to put my town council hat on to some extent, and I think from a town council point of view, trying to deal with a Worcestershire-wide authority is going to be even more of a nightmare than it is trying to redevelop the town and parishes with the proposed two-tier system. So from that point of view, I would be encouraging the two-tier with the South Worcestershire as being the best option.
Thank you. Martin?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Council. We all wish we weren't here doing this tonight. It's not good, it's unnecessary, and it does take us away from looking after our residents. And I think it will continue to take us away from looking after our residents as well as we'd like to, as we get closer to the date when the change comes, whatever that's going to be. Now, during Thursday's briefing, it was mentioned that the financial modelling, over 10 years, option A would save a huge £89+ million over 10 years. And nobody has explained to me, if we don't go for option A, where that £89 million is going to come from. Well, it's going to come from our residents, of course, because their council tax is going to be higher. I know we've got to bear the financial side of it in mind. I don't know how I'm going to vote at county next week. I think tonight I'm probably going to abstain, merely as a form of protest against the government and what they've done. I'm also concerned that if we go for B1 or B2, when the strategic authorities are formed, if we're just South Worcestershire, what's to stop us being linked with other organisations and North Worcestershire not being one of them? We just don't know at the moment, and I think we need a lot more clarity from the government before we can make a fully informed decision. So I feel at the end of the day that I'm probably going to have to abstain. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Paul?
Just on that point about the savings, there are no costings in any of the work done so far which consider the costs of setting up the mayoral side of it and how much that would cost to run. And all the savings would be completely wiped out, as far as I can see, by the fact that we would just have two higher tiers rather than the two tiers that we have at this level. So to some degree, some of these cost savings that have been put forward by the organisation representing county councils don't really consider the entire picture, and we actually discussed that at the recent meeting that we all had.
Thank you, Paul. Do you have any other comments or thoughts? Beverly?
Yes, I would like to say that I am enthusiastic about the changes and about the proposals here, and especially my own preference would be, like others as expressed today, for option 2, for 2 unitaries in Worcestershire and for a South Worcestershire unitary. I mean, my own experience is that most residents do not understand local government. They don't know which layer deals with what. There's huge elements of confusion. And of course, naturally, there's additional cost involved in having layers of different councils. And it does always seem to me very peculiar that you've got LTPs at one level, transport at another, highways, education at a separate level, health and social care at another level. And bringing it all together into one body that is cohesive, that has a strategic plan, that manages it all for one area, where you have a place-based focus on growth and the people there, seems to me eminently sensible. I find it really hard to get my mind around the idea that that isn't a sensible option. So I look up the road to Birmingham, where admittedly there wasn't a particular reorganisation of local government, but you have a mayor now. And the amount of funding that's going into Birmingham, the fact that Birmingham is much more on the map, having worked up there for 40 years, I'm well aware of how it was sort of a flyover city that, you know, Manchester got a lot of attention, Birmingham didn't, and now Birmingham is getting the attention, it is getting funding. So I see a great opportunity for strategic authorities, and I see a great opportunity for South Worcestershire with our emphasis on technology, on business communications, on technology, cyber defence, for investment in our area, for alignment with other areas that actually have a focus on those sectoral and clusters as well. So I don't see it all as doom and gloom. Yes, change is difficult and it is time consuming and it is disruptive, but actually what we have now is by no means ideal. Yes, I think the District Council here has done a great job, but I do think there are real opportunities here for the future and for growth. So I am fully supportive of option 2 on the table this evening, and indeed of the vision that is being promoted here for our area.
Thank you, Beverly. Any other thoughts, comments before we move to the vote? Is everybody good? Now's your time. Thank you. We move to the vote. Just to be clear, this is on option 2, yeah?
Yeah, so
Chairman, can I just clarify? We've had a proposal from the leader for option 2.1, little 2, and all the rest of the recommendations, noting that 1 is for noting, and all that en bloc has been seconded by Councillor Evanson. Sorry, were you going to say that? Apologies.
Okay, John, sorry, can we just have that confirmed? Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah, good. And seconded, Jeremy? Thank you.
okay, so if everyone can raise their cards. Thank you. And then against. And any abstentions? That's carried.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance this evening. The next full meeting is the 23rd of September. Thank you.